Lakers Nuggets, it's a game you want to hear about. We've got a breakdown. In fact, we've got you covered on all three of Monday's NBA playoff games, including a player prop for Sixers Knicks that you're going to want to bet. A couple looks in MLB as well. Zeno, let's get right into it. Lakers Nuggets. I know you have some strong thoughts for game 2 tonight in Denver.
Well, I mean, told you ahead of time of game 1 that Denver's absolutely going to cover that number. But I got too cute with myself because Denver has been such a good first half team. I only played the -4 in the first half. And their defense decided not to show up for the first 24 minutes and give up 60 points. And I text you at halftime. I said, watch Denver come back and still cover this number. And that's exactly what happened. Why did it happen? Because Denver is a markedly better team. And it's interesting to note here, Brian, that when you look at all the other teams that have won game 1, we're already seeing a bump up in their spread for game 2. Cleveland's a little bit higher. The Knicks are higher. You even look to tomorrow when you have Boston went from 14 to 15. Denver still sitting at 7.5, which, again, I still don't understand odds makers' love for the Los Angeles Lakers. There isn't anything the Lakers do better than the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets are a markedly better team. There is no reason to think the Lakers should hang in this series. They're going to get swept, and they just literally don't have the horses in the barn to compete with this Nuggets team. So I'll lay the 7.5 again with the Denver Nuggets here in game 2. They're certainly not going to lose a home game to this Los Angeles Lakers team. Could they lose one on the road? Maybe, but Denver all the way this time. Don't get cute with it. Lay the 7.
Look, if you're a Lakers fan, you got to be concerned because you look at game 1, Mark. They get 18 first-half points from LeBron, a double-double from Anthony Davis. Denver had just 6 free throw attempts the entire game. Yet, What happens? Denver beats the Lakers for a 9th straight time and does so by double digits. Porter Jr. and Jokic were the only Denver starters to shoot over 50% as well. So you got to think offensively Denver's going to be better. And outside of James and Davis, we saw this last year in the Western Conference Finals. No one else on the Lakers did anything. The rest of the team combined for just 44 points. A first half look, I know it burns you. You brought that up at the outset there. Mike, Denver is a good first half team like you alluded to, so that's not a bad look either. But I would agree. I think Denver's probably going to roll tonight. Stay tuned, by the way, for that player prop in Sixers Knicks that Mark and I both believe everyone needs to bet tonight. We'll close the show with that. But first, we're actually going to make sure you get something for all 3 NBA playoff games on Monday because, Mark, we're going to start our line move section. Every morning, we're going to take a look at some line moves for the people, let them know what we think about it. And we're going to turn to Magic Cavs. The total has been bet down a little bit, 203 to 202.5. Do you agree with that? It was atrocious shooting, particularly from 3 from both sides in game 1.
Yeah, I mean, you and I spent the last part of the season, the last month of the season, betting team total overs for really bad teams. And we cashed them at a very high rate. I mean, I'm talking about bad offensive teams like Portland, like Charlotte, like San Antonio, and they were cashing. Why? Because it's really not hard to get to 100 points in today's NBA. And that's what I just can't seem to wrap my head around here. I know it was a 97-83 final. Higher math tells me that's, 180 points in an NBA game in 2024. Throwback to 1992 there. And the total was 206. They opened this total at 204 or 203, and it's getting bet down. Is there a world where 2 teams in the NBA don't get to 100 again? Like, how many? We've seen bad teams and bad offenses like Portland or whatever go, multiple games not getting to 100 points. But these aren't bad teams; these are good teams. And even though the Orlando Magic aren't a high scoring team, neither is Cleveland. They're both on the slower end of the pace spectrum when we talk about how fast these teams play. With Cleveland being near the bottom, both of these teams are bottom 10 in pace. But still, BP, are we really to believe that 2 NBA teams are not going to get to 100 in back-to-back games, 2 playoff teams? I just have a hard time wrapping my head around it. I'm not sure I want to bet the over, but again, it's 2024. Teams score 100 points without breaking a sweat. They do it in the third quarter in most games.
Yeah, my only concern is on the Magic side. Okay, first of all, this is the playoffs, and as we saw yesterday, every losing team failed to hit 100. Orlando's the worst offensive team left in the playoffs, bar none. They had an 86.5 offensive rating in game one. For those of you not well versed in offensive rating, that's very bad. Okay, and then the Cavs, they shot 8 of 30 from three, turn it over 17 times, still win by double digits. The thing with the Magic, they've got to score 16 more points than they did in game one. Are we confident that they can do that? I know the shooting across the board was wretched.
Yes.
It was atrocious. But I don't know. I'm not confident in this group.
This was a bad shooting night for a college team in Orlando, let alone a professional team. I mean, that's, like you just can't shoot 32% in an NBA game. Now, look, the Cavs are a very good defense. We know that. But doesn't there just have to be some general regression to the mean here, where you just can score 100? Like, I say it out loud. All I'm asking both teams to do is get to 100 points. Well, gee, that seems fairly easy. That should happen all the time in the NBA. So, I'm not endorsing necessarily betting the over, but don't be surprised if it hits, because you're not going to get teams to stay under 100, playoff level teams to stay under. And typically after teams have like really bad shooting nights, aren't they extra focused the next night? Isn't that where coaching comes in and they say, hey, let's get high quality shots. Let's get easy dunks. Let's get layups in transition. Let's make sure we're finding ways to put the ball in the basket. So I don't know. I have a hard time believing that both teams aren't getting to 100.
All right, so you and I are a little bit, we're struggling with that line move, not necessarily on board. Let's turn to MLB, because there's an under I want to bring up here, and it is in the Tigers-Rays game. That total has dropped from 7.5 to 7. This is a 6:50 Eastern time start. And the total dropping is likely due to the fact that we have what looks to be an outstanding starting pitching matchup here. Skubal for the Tigers, Littell for the Rays. Couple things to note here, Mark. Only 6 games at Tropicana Field last season closed with a total of 7 or lower. And Skubal, his home run rate is way up against righties compared to lefties. There's a chance that everybody that comes up to bat for Tampa Bay tonight is going to be a righty. I'm not necessarily sure I'm on board with this line move either. A home run, just one home run with a total this low can kill you. Your thoughts on Rays Tigers as we turn to Major League Baseball on Monday?
Look, Skubal is getting a ton of respect from odds makers just because of how dominant he was towards the end of last year and how good he's been to start this year with a 2.28 ERA and a 0.8 whip. There are not guys getting on all that much in any size, way, shape, or form. So this is also a Tampa lineup that doesn't really scare you all that much. Now, if you look at what Skubal's done this year, his first 3 starts were against the White Sox. Their lineup stinks. The A's, their lineup stinks. And the Twins, their lineup stinks. So he did manage to keep the Rangers only 2 earned runs, but 4 in the game. So where does this Tampa Bay lineup fall against lefties? Pretty middle of the road here. 20th in OPS and 18th in WRC plus. But the Trop isn't exactly like, a hitter's paradise either. So I get the line move here. With a number this low, it almost to a certain extent, I think makes it unplayable, because you can't cut the game in half. And the only thing you're really relying on, if you want to play the over, is the fact that Tampa Bay's bullpen is really bad. 4th highest ERA, 5.34. They've walked 52 guys. Their bullpen has walked 52 guys. That's the most in Major League Baseball. And their 87 hits allowed is the 4th most in 2024. So you're hanging your hat on that when it comes to this matchup here, because the Tampa Bay bullpen is bad. The Tigers bullpen, not at all. In fact, best bullpen ERA in baseball at 1.65, and their whip is the lowest in Major League Baseball at 1 even. So distinct advantage for Detroit in the bullpen here, that if they don't score early, guess what? They ain't going to score at all.
I know not a lot of people head to Tropicana Field. If you do, you want to crack open Aviva Tequila Seltzer. Of course, those are flowing this year. Should have to get that plug in. All right. Every day on the show, Mark, we're going to do what we call a double play. You and I, we're going to pick out a matchup, a game, something that jumped out to us. I'll start. My MLB look is going to be Toronto, Kansas City. I get that the Royals have been fortunate, Mark, to play the White Sox a lot thus far. There's been 2 series against the worst team in baseball. And they did just drop 2 of 3 over the weekend here at home to Baltimore. But I don't think KC, who's plus 38 in run differential, it's number 2 in all of baseball behind the Guardians, and will have Brady Singer on the mound. should be even money at home against Toronto tonight. This team is 4-0 in Singer starts. He's posted a 1.5 ERA, a .857 whip. Kikuchi has pitched well for the Blue Jays. I get that. But I would go with the Royals in this one. They have the better bullpen. Like I said, they're at home. And at home, at Kauffman Stadium, Kansas City averages nearly 2 full runs more than what Toronto averages on the road. So my half of today's double play, Mark, is to take Kansas City at home minus 105 at the money line. I think we're seeing that line already move in their direction. I believe it will continue to do so throughout the day. So honestly, folks, we're getting this stuff to you in the morning. I'd bet this one as soon as possible. Kansas City is my lean there against Toronto.
For my double play, let's look to the San Diego Padres, who are in Colorado to start a series with the Rockies. And I don't often endorse laying the 1.5. However, we get a couple of things in our favor. Number one, the Padres are the road team, so they're absolutely going to get all 9 at-bats. We know that 100%, barring any weather. And they have a much better starter on the mound. They're getting Dylan Cease here, who's been fantastic for them since coming over to the White Sox. A 1.99 ERA, a 0.93 whip. He's got 27 strikeouts in 22 2/3 innings. And it's crazy because he actually has 11 walks, which is pretty high, all things considered. But that means nobody is actually putting the bat on the ball. He hasn't given up more than 4 hits in any start. If he can actually stop the walking, putting guys on, he'd be nearly unhittable at this point in time. But here's the other thing. You're looking at a San Diego Padres team that is going up against Austin Gomber. Well, he pretty much is a Gomber. And I'm not really sure what a Gomber is, but it's not very good. And when it comes to hitting left-handed pitching, the Padres are top 10 in WRC plus and OPS. And they hit the ball out of the ballpark, and that's the reason why. Their average is kind of actually low against lefties. It's bottom 10 in the league. But again, that tells you that they're hitting a ton of home runs. They're second Major League Baseball in home runs hit against lefties. What's a good place to hit home runs there, BP? Oh, yeah, let's go with Coors Field. And oh, by the way, the cherry on top of this whole thing is the Colorado Rockies played a doubleheader yesterday against the Seattle Mariners. The Colorado
and game
Rockies
2 was late.
Yes, the Colorado Rockies already have a bad bullpen with a 5.2 ERA and a whip that is the worst in Major League Baseball for bullpens at 1.65, and they've given up 9 home runs. And they're taxed going up against a team that can hit home runs in a home run hitter's ballpark. I don't mind laying the 1.5 here, especially since the juice is pretty moderate at minus 126 here. So I'm willing to roll the dice and lay minus 1.5 with San Diego tonight against Colorado.
All right, just to summarize, I like Kansas City minus 105 on the money line. He likes San Diego minus 1.5 on the run line. Before we get to that player prop back in the NBA that Mark and I both think you should bet, just want to talk about what both he and I have going on at WagerTalk.com today. I am coming off a 3-0 sweep of the board on Sunday. Had the Pelicans, Bucks, and Clippers. How about those contrarian plays? Vintage Brian Power performance there, Zeno. I'm now number 1 at WagerTalk this month in the NBA, hitting 80% overall, 6 straight winners. So we'll be looking to keep it rolling in the NBA playoffs. Major League Baseball, I'll have some too. What do you got going, Mark, over at WT.buzz/MZ?
We have been on a really good run. Look, 33-17 at 66%, up over 26 units since the end of March and March 29th. An 11-6 run over the last week now, up over 12 units. We cashed a couple of 5% plays last week as well. So look, I mean, we are rolling right now. We're going to keep it going. Oh, by the way, a 17-6 start to the Major League Baseball season for me. Just a really good run here. So we're going to dive into some baseball tonight along with the NBA.
And a reminder, today is the final day to take advantage of that 10-day special over at WagerTalk.com. You buy a 7-day all access from your favorite WagerTalk handicapper. You get an additional 3 days of service, which is a $69 value. Oh, by the way, thrown in at no charge, no coupon needed. You just head on over WT.buzz/MZ, WT.buzz/BP, and you take advantage right there. And you're not limited to one of us. You can do it for both. So you can get Mark's next 10 days for $99, my next 10 days for $99 as well. All right, let's give them one for the road, Mark. We're going to conclude every show when we do this with a play that both you and I agree on, something that you endorse, something that we feel the listeners, the viewers need to be betting, and it is a player prop in the NBA. Sixers-Knicks. The Knicks win with an incredible performance from their bench in Game 1, but the starters stunk, actually. No starter for the Knicks finished with a positive plus-minus rating, And we're going to focus on Dante DiVincenzo, who was 3 for 10 for only 8 points in game one. DiVincenzo! And we think he bounces back tonight, don't we? Because game one was the first time since mid-January that he didn't hit double digits. Coming to the playoffs, Mark, he was averaging more than 20 points per game in April.
Well, let's look at the macro level picture here. The Knicks got 42 points from their bench, including 21 from Miles McBride. Jalen Brunson had 22, but he was only 8 of 26 shooting. I don't think that's really a sustainable formula for the Knicks to go out and win this series. So they got very little help from, they didn't get their best game from Jalen. They got little help from Dante, who had just 8 points on 3 of 10 shooting. He was minus 23 in the game. Also not sustainable for the Knicks. So let's get the script to flip tonight. We get Brunson back on track. The big names do what they do best. DiVincenzo averaged 15.3 points per game against Philly in the 4 regular season games on 40.8% shooting, 39.5% shooting from three-point range. He was also a combined plus 39 in the 4 regular season games, finished just one of those games, BP, in a minus in the plus negative category, and the Knicks won that game by 36, and he only played 16 minutes. So he is a guy against Philadelphia that they are going to need to be shooting and shooting well. That 3 for 10 last night, probably not going to duplicate it, or rather Saturday night, not going to duplicate itself again. Dante DiVincenzo had 16, 15, 16, and 14 in the 4 regular season games here. So we may need one extra bucket, one extra free throw, but I think we get over 15 and a half for, the little Italian there, Dante.
Dante DiVincenzo, he's going to break it home. That is the player prop both Mark Zinno and myself feel you need to bet here in Monday's NBA playoff action. We will be back Tuesday. My goodness, we got through our first show, did not even break the WagerTalk YouTube channel, I don't believe. Of course, if you already haven't done so, subscribe to the WagerTalk YouTube channel. That way you don't miss any of our exclusive sports betting content. And if you would be so kind, smash that like button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave comments down below. Mark and or I can always get back to you if there is a question, comment, or concern that you feel we did not address on the day's slate. But we will be back with you tomorrow on Tuesday. Until then, well, let's cash some tickets.